What's going on, everyone? John Matrix here. So we've started going into the SCP Foundation and the various lore and stories around the SCP Foundation, and I've really been enjoying getting into this stuff lately and getting into the lore, and it has a very kind of sci-fi X-Files kind of feel to it with a lot of this stuff. And you guys have, been showing a lot of love and support for it. But we took a look at exploring the SCP Foundation's the Church of the Broken God, the religion behind the Broken God, and the various factions that kind of formed from it, and some of the various anomalies and things that took place potentially in reviving the Broken God with the false heart, and etc., etc. So today we're going to take a look at the Sarkicism, the religion behind the opposing god of the Church of the Broken God. I'm trying to remember the various names of the gods at the moment. I'm pretty sure the Sarkic god is like Yaldabaoth, something like that. I'm trying to remember the machine god off the top of my name, but I can't remember it at the moment. But it's very Mechanicus, if you know anything about the Warhammer universe, so I dig it. But we're gonna take a look at that today. So as always, links will be down below in the info section, description, whatever you want to call it, down below. This is the exploring the SCP Foundation Sarkicism. So let's take a look. Let's take a look here. Monitor, volume, go.
Sarkicism.
Sarkicism, okay.
The nature of belief and faith is certainly a powerful one, regardless of the concept of a deity or deities. But even just looking at the power, control, and influence that believers can possess, from the widespread influence of the Vatican to the utter control of a small cult leader, faith has been a prominent aspect of our species for thousands of years.
I'm interested in this art. I assume that these are some kind of, I guess, cult leaders, faction leaders, maybe even some kind of, like, I don't know, demigods, if that's what's going on as well. Some kind of people that have maybe powers that have been infused in them by the god. This like butterfly, I don't know. That's just very interesting looking art here for whatever this being is. This like lower half being this kind of almost spider appendage-ish lower half, and then almost kind of like a fairy upper half. I don't know. I really like that art. It's like what my eye is drawn to here. You know, not for other reasons, but I don't know. It's just very pretty. I like the wings, and I just like how it's just very interesting. It's intriguing. But this character reminds me of someone, and I can't place it. It looks familiar. Maybe I've seen it in some other random things that I've looked through that could have been related to SCP, and I didn't know. Or I could be thinking of something from another game or a movie or something, but this character, whoever this is, this like mask, looks very familiar. I'm trying to place it, but I'm drawing a blank in my mind. This character almost kind of looks like one of the Lothric brothers in Dark Souls 3. The prince that talks to you, the one that was supposed to be the sickly one. I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head either. But anyway, let's continue with the video. I'm getting way off topic here with just seeing some other references that are popping into my brain as I'm looking at this art. No, I don't want to turn the volume down.
Faith has been a prominent aspect of our species for thousands of years. We've already looked at one religion in the SCP universe, the Church of the Broken God.
Yep.
But now we'll discuss their counterpart, the Sarkic cults. Sarkicism is another very large topic within the SCP universe.
So from what I remember from the video we watched in the Church of the Broken God, is that there were essentially two gods that originated like kind of everything. I think it's Yaldabaoth, something like that, is like the god that created all animals including humans, and is all about kind of like natural feral, I don't know if necessarily feral, but like instinctual drive, I guess would be the way to go. And almost kind of felt from a 40k comparison kind of Nurgle-ish, I guess you could say, with like mutations and changes to things, and I guess evolution. And then you have the other god, which is what the Church of the Broken God's from. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the god off the top of my head right now. I'm sure he's going to say it in here, but they're like the god of machines and of like technology and progress. And so humans eventually started, you know, inventing things and creating technology. And this other god about nature kind of got jealous and they started fighting each other. You know, that's from what I remember. So let's see if my memory is on par.
Sarkicism is another very large topic within the SCP universe, and this would be a very long video if I tried to cover it all. So let's just try and get a good idea of what Sarkicism is, and why it has its followers. Sark means flesh in ancient Greek, which summarizes the overall belief system of the Sarkites, which is diametrically opposed to the Church of the Broken Gods theology based on technology. In fact, most Sarkites don't actually refer to themselves using the term Sarkic, as the term was an insult created by the Church of the Broken Gods' predecessors.
Interesting.
That is not to overemphasize the Sarkites' opinion of the Church, as it is believed that while the Church views the Sarkites as a sort of biblical foe, the Sarkites seem to view the Church as simply another obstacle. The Sarkic cults are generally divided into two different factions that operate in vastly different ways, but follow mostly the same set of beliefs. The proto-Sarkic cults are those found in small, isolated communities across Europe and Asia. These communities are usually poor, superstitious, technophobic, and generally hostile to any outsiders. The Neo-Sarkic cults, on the other hand, are found in much more urban environments.
It's a very interesting picture. Like, I don't even know what's going on there with this person. I don't know, I'm sure that's intentional, but looks very interesting.
And can be difficult to differentiate from other wealthy city dwellers. They are usually upper class, coming from affluent families, and with no apparent objections to technology and modern life. Both cults, however, believe that one of the main concepts.
Bro, what the fuck is that? Dude, that is awful. How they're getting impaled like that? Jesus. Is that like an umbrella of like flesh or something? Good lord.
And modern life. Both cults, however, believe that one of the main concepts of Sarkicism is that one can achieve apotheosis, that is, becoming a god. It's generally accepted that Grand Karcist Eon, the founder and prophet of the Sarkic cults, did become a god through some sort of interaction with the primordial goddess, Yaldabaoth.
Yaldabaoth, yeah.
Proto-Sarkites believe that in time, Eon will eventually provide them with godhood, and Neo-Sarkites believe that it must be obtained through willpower, and they must one day usurp Eon. This will-to-power concept is prevalent in Neo-Sarkites, and a common proverb says to do as you will to whom you will, as desire is the measure of all things.
Interesting.
Both cults
instead of do unto others as they would do unto you, it's what did he say?
As desire. Common proverb says to do as you will to whom you will.
Yeah, instead of do unto others as you would want them to do unto you, it's do what you want to whoever you want. Interesting. That feels almost kind of like Sith Lord in nature. You know, take power and use it as you will against whoever you want. Interesting.
Sarkites. And a common proverb says to do as you will to whom you will, as desire is the measure of all things. Both cults believe in the idea of sacrifice, but here they differ greatly, as Proto-Sarkites believe in the sacrifice of oneself for the benefit of the many, and Neo-Sarkites instead believe in the sacrifice of the many for the benefit
Needs
of
of the few.
oneself.
Okay.
Either way, belief in cycle.
I mean, that kind of makes sense in a certain way. Like the OG Sarkites, I guess, believing in sacrifice themselves for everyone. That would make sense in the terms of like the context of them essentially being poor. They're from isolated areas where life is harsh, and they're poor. They don't have much. They're xenophobic, technophobic. So the philosophy of, it's, an honor and maybe even glorified to sacrifice yourself and your own things for the greater good of the community, that would seem to make sense from that perspective. And then also the reverse perspective of the Neo-Sarks being, rich, wealthy, well-to-do people in society that are hiding amongst, normal people or whatever, and their view of essentially like using others and make them sacrifice to increase your greater good. So, interesting.
For the benefit of oneself. Either way, belief in cycles of destruction and regeneration is paramount to the Sarkic faith. Both cults often practice ritual cannibalism, human sacrifice, the worship and spread of contagions, and bodily augmentation.
See, it just sounds very Nurgle to me from, everything that I've been going through with Warhammer. But anyway, I'm interrupting a lot. Let's watch the video.
The worship and spread of contagions, and bodily augmentation. Grand Karcist Eon founded the Sarkic cults nearly 4,000 years ago, somewhere in western Siberia. The Sarkic timeline is muddy, even their recent history, but it's believed that Eon was born to a Davite mother and a slave father.
Wonder, off topic, I'm just looking at this painting, which is beautiful. I wonder if this is supposed to be a painting from the Persian invasion of Athens, where they burned Athens down. Anyway, let me rewind that and actually listen to what he's talking about.
Area. The Sarkic timeline is muddy, even their recent history, but it's believed that Eon was born to a Davite mother and a slave father, as the Davites referred to him as a half-breed.
Okay.
Eon was a slave for much of his youth in the city-state of Adatum, possibly serving under an alchemist or priestess, until he led a slave revolt against the Davites. During this time, Eon demonstrated great power over organic flesh, both his own and others. Examples of this include transforming his hand into some sort of wolf jaw, capable of ripping through a metal jail cell.
Interesting.
Forcing others to act against their will, such as causing men to throw themselves on their spears, and could also gift these powers and other physical augmentations onto his followers. During this revolt, Eon was aided by 4 disciples, known as the Clavigar in the Sarkic faith, who would go on to be essentially saints. It's unclear how exactly Eon gained his abilities, but it somehow involves Yaldabaoth, a god or goddess believed by the Sarkites to be responsible for creating the universe, possibly through the process of giving birth to other gods, and then devouring them and exhaling the remains.
Interesting.
Neo-Sarkites revere this god, but Proto-Sarkites seem to regard it as the enemy of all living things.
That's a very interesting creation myth. A goddess giving birth to other gods, consuming them, and then exhaling any kind of remains, and those remains became what is the universe. That is a very interesting creation myth.
This god, but Proto-Sarkites seem to birth to other gods, and then devouring them and exhaling the remains. Neo-Sarkites revere this god, but Proto-Sarkites seem to regard it as the enemy of all living things.
So wait, Proto-Sarkites think that Yaldabaoth is the enemy of all living things because she consumes everything, but the Neo-Sarkics worship her? Is that what am I getting things confused here? Am I getting some mixed up? Let me listen to that again.
Them and exhaling
right,
the
devouring and
remains.
exhaling the remains.
Neo-Sarkites revere this god, but Proto-Sarkites seem to regard it as the enemy of all living things. Yaldabaoth is also joined by 6 other entities, known as Archons, which are described as manifestations of primordial chaos.
Oh, now we're getting to 40k shit again.
It's said that Eon endured 6 trials given by the Archons, which allowed him to break free from the bondage of mortal limitations.
Okay, so he's talking about Eon, I think. Let me rewind this again.
Possibly through the process of giving birth to other gods, and then devouring them and exhaling the remains. Neo-Sarkites revere this god, but Proto-Sarkites seem to regard it as the enemy of all living things.
Okay, so Neo-Sarkites like Aeon, but the Proto-Sarkites, the OGs, they don't like him. They think he's the enemy of everything living. Okay, so I wonder if that also thinks that he's then the enemy of Yaldabaoth, which would be interesting, being that supposedly Yaldabaoth, gave him these powers. I don't know. Or maybe they believe that he's a child of Yaldabaoth that somehow escaped being consumed and is such looking for power in order to keep from being consumed by Yaldabaoth.
Yaldabaoth is also joined by 6 other entities, known as Archons, which are described as manifestations of primordial chaos. It's said that Eon endured 6 trials given by the Archons, which allowed him to break free from the bondage of mortal limitations. In one text, Eon claims to have murdered Death herself and read the entrails of the Creator. Regardless of how Eon managed to become godlike, his slave revolt conquered the Davites, forcing them to recede, and the Sarkites built a number of cities, largely composed of organic material.
I think weren't the Davites the original OG guys that worshiped the mechanical god and kind of were maybe a precursor to the Greeks, if I remember correctly from previous video, but I could just be getting that mixed up.
The Sarkic civilization experienced its golden age and spread across Eurasia, with their capital being the converted kingdom of Adytum. Their civilization eventually spread into the Mediterranean, establishing a foothold here and colonizing the various islands. It was here where they would encounter the real resistance, however, as the Mechanites, precursors to the Church of the Broken God, would rise up against them alongside other civilizations. This massive war involved anomalous technology.
That is crazy looking. That looks like, again, straight like some kind of warp demon. That is crazy.
Huge colossi, monstrous abominations, and 20 to 30 million casualties.
Jeez.
The war ended with really no winners, as the Sarkic Empire broke apart and went into hiding.
If they were ever to make an SCP show, man, this whole lore mythology of the Mechanites and the Sarkites, man, and these two gods and everything happening in ancient history, but it's ancient history of all of the Sarkites and their stuff, and the Mechanites and their advanced technology. They could be part of the Atlantean myth, and their great battle caused a huge rift and chasm in the planet or whatever, a huge apocalyptic event that led into other things. So I don't know. I could just see that being a really cool TV show and series, this whole battle and lore between them. So anyway,
the war ended with really no winners, as the Sarkic Empire broke apart and went into hiding, leading to a division in culture and theology. The Mechanites dwindled and eventually became the Church of the Broken God, and the devastation led to the collapse of the Bronze Age. Sarkicism would continue to live on in small communities throughout Eurasia, and their belief systems would slowly differ. At this point, it's completely unknown what happened to Grand Karcist Eon, and the Foundation is currently not even sure if he ever existed at all. Eventually, certain Sarkites would become intertwined with some noble courts, acting as advisors or court magicians, teaching the lords and ladies about alchemy, astrology, and the occult, while spreading belief in Sarkicism. These courts would become Sarkic great houses, practitioners of Neo-Sarkicism that follow their own interpretation of the religion.
I wonder if during World War II, with this lore, you know, the Nazis, that was part of like the Sarkics were a part of that, because they were, you know, there was a big division of the Nazis that were very much into like the occult and things like that, and studying other means of, you know, gaining power through, you know, other means.
Both Proto-Sarkites and Neo-Sarkites would maintain their numbers through generations of inbreeding, avoiding genetic defects through Sarkic rituals.
Interesting.
Sarkites have shown vastly lower mortality rates compared to normal populations. Both groups also adhere to a strong belief in secrecy, whether through mistrust or necessity, and so Sarkicism is largely unknown to the wide world. So, most Sarkites present a dangerous threat to the current world order, as the Foundation considers their speculated goals to be fairly apocalyptic in nature, although not all Sarkites are dangerous, such as SCP-2815, a village of inbreds that give out human flesh disguised as fruit that for some reason is safe to eat.
The fuck?
They also donate organs and blood grown from a tree to local hospitals. Sadly, however, these benign examples are few and far between, and we're left mostly with highly anomalous and dangerous entities. I would be doing many of these SCPs a disservice by only quickly summarizing them here instead of giving them their own videos.
Looks very much Demogorgon from Stranger Things, which I'm very much looking forward to. Season 5 of Stranger Things. Season 4 was pretty fucking good.
But I'll provide a few examples. SCP-2480 is one of the
Adam's Family House,
a dimensional anomaly located in a town in Massachusetts. The anomaly is causing Sarkite monstrosities to bleed into our reality, either from another dimension or another timeline. The GOC and the Foundation are currently working together to contain the situation, but this is connected with another SCP located in Romania.
That is terrifying.
SCP-2191. Here, a massive entity spread across hundreds of thousands of square kilometers of tunnels, believed to be a concubine of Grand Karcist Eon.
The fuck?
This entity is fed liquefied human remains, provided to it by a species of mutated vampiric humans.
Interesting.
It's also appeased by locals who provide human sacrifices to minimize seismic activity. SCP-2133 is a proto-Sarkic commune in Russia, whose inhabitants are reincarnated whenever they die, possessing all of their past memories and appearance.
That's handy.
They deposit their turnip harvests and any gangrenous limbs or tumorous growths in the church every evening, and the village is also filled with dark red tentacles that attack any outsiders entering the church.
What the fuck?
Beneath the church is an expansive series of tunnels and caverns, where there seems to be thousands of entities growing in eggs, as well as a temple devoted to a Karcist.
Getting some fucking Lovecraftian shit here, man. Damn, with like all these like eldritch horror stuff. It's pretty fucking cool, man. I like this stuff. I like this lore and all these ideas of these things and these like hidden anomalies. Like again, I could see like almost a Stranger Things kind of show. I don't know. I guess more like it's an older show. But if you guys have ever heard of The Outer Limits, it was an old show that was made, you know, in black and white way back in the day. And I think they did tried to redo the show like in the early mid 90s, and it just didn't do as well. But where it's like, yeah, they're all kind of like episodic individual stories going in on things similar to this, you know, weird, strange anomalies and occurrences that take place, and you know what happens to the people and how it affects them and stuff. So I could easily see some kind of show like that being made with a lot of this stuff they're talking about just from this video and, you know, these various religions. The shit's pretty cool, man.
Growing in eggs, as well as a temple devoted to a Karcist. There is possibly a strong connection between SCP-2133 and SCP-610, the flesh that hates.
The flesh that hates.
I've already made a video covering 610, which Sarkites refer to as the Red Death.
Which I intend to watch that next. In these SCP videos. Yeah, because I have a friend who's got me into this SCP stuff and sent me a playlist, but after going from I'm kind of going off script, I guess you could say, from that, because after the Church of the Broken God, I wanted to get into the Sarkics, and then he also recommended me to look at 610, so I'm probably gonna look at that next. But yeah,
I've already made a video covering 610, which Sarkites refer to as the Red Death, and it's believed that this is the Sarkites' ultimate weapon in reshaping the world.
Which, from the Broken God video, that very much sounds like very Nurgle-ish. This, like, entity that, like, creates and mutates viruses and various things that can grow and spread, and yeah, it sounds awful. But
massive Sarkic organisms containing human DNA are believed to have battled the captured Colossus, SCP-2406, during the war between the Sarkites and the Mechanites. Another large organism was used as a Sarkic temple in their Golden Age, SCP-2095, but eventually was conquered during the war and died. SCP-2075 is a Karcist that was captured by the Foundation, but easily broke containment when it revealed that they had only captured one small aspect of itself, along with two of the security personnel assigned to the SCP. The doctor in charge was stabbed with an anomalous dagger, which seemed to transform him into a large amorphous mass of flesh and bone, which proceeded to kill 56 personnel before dying. Finally, there is SCP-2510, an important anomaly related to both the Church of the Broken God and the Sarkic cults.
Right.
2510 is a larger machine, and part of it has been made into a trans-dimensional gateway. The first people reported to have gone through the gateway, in 1940, were said to have found a machine city. The gateway destination can be controlled, and the Foundation sent a team to multiple dimensions, all variations of Earth. There's too much here to really go into detail, but to summarize, these dimensions were each one where the war between the Sarkic cults and the rest of humanity came to a climax. In one of them, parts of the Broken God were fashioned into an unimaginable weapon that wiped out every trace of life from the planet.
Damn.
In others, the Sarkic forces went out, and Yaldabaoth broke free from its cage, driving the world to a horrific apocalypse. In another reality, however, humanity banded together and achieved a technological singularity, uniting to defeat the Sarkites. The lesson to be learned from this anomaly is that if humanity doesn't work together and embrace the Church of the Broken God's ideology, the Sarkic cults will win. Since there's really no canon, however, this is just one perspective. So, this should have provided a good jumping off point to continue learning about Sarkicism as it's continually expanded. In the majority of cases, it's very easy to look at the Sarkic cults as nothing more than threats to humanity, and that seems to be the general consensus for most of the community. While some might boil down the conflict between the Broken God Church and the Sarkites to just good versus evil, good fiction is rarely as simple as that. Regardless, Sarkicism and its anomalies are a very interesting blend of religion, folklore, occultism, and body horror.
Yeah, we got a quote here. To his flock, Ion thus spoke. I have stepped beyond the flow of dreams, stood before the old ones within their own desolate domain. I've endured their intolerable force across countless eons. I've seen the infinite dead worlds, murdered death herself. I've read the entrails of our Creator, beheld eternity unfurled. Know that our paradise draws near, and with our own flesh shall we birth it. Interesting. All right. Well, there you have it. That is exploring the SCP Foundation, Sarkicism. Again, this was kind of going off of what I'd learned about the Church of the Broken God and the Mechanites and all of, you know, their religion and points of view. So I wanted to do kind of a counterpoint to that. Very interesting, man. Very interesting stuff. Like I said, I could easily see, you know, a show or movie or something like that, or even just like its own book series of novels being written about the ancient world and the various battles that took place between the Mechanites and the Sarkics, and how it came to a head and created, you know, potentially some kind of apocalyptic event that could have led into, you know, what became a lot of the stories that are like read in the Bible with, you know, Moses and the Ark and the flooding and whatnot. And then, you know, how everything took place and, you know, civilization returned in the Middle East and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I could see that being something that would be very interesting. But I just like, I want to learn more about everything that happened with the Sarkics and the Mechanites. I want to learn more about that stuff in the past and the various factions and the war itself. That stuff just is very interesting and fascinating to me. And I like how a lot of other kind of myths are kind of being blended into what the Sarkics are. You know, some kind of eldritch horror stuff with this underground tunnel where all these, you know, entities, beings, whatever, are, you know, potentially growing and absorbing, you know, whatever life essence from these sacrifices, and they're growing in these eggs, and they've got these giant tentacles that are protecting this church, and there's this giant, you know, several hundred, I think, kilometer creature that's living underground that is being fed and appeased by vampires, you know, that are, you know, feeding it blood of humans. And the idea of there being the different Sarkic factions, the Neo Sarkics and the OG Sarkics, and the OG Sarkics thinks Ion, who I guess could potentially be a child of Yaldabaoth, you know, is actually an enemy, and the Neo guys think, you know, they worship him, you know, and it's just a fascinating also creation myth, the idea of, you know, a goddess giving birth to whatever, and then her consuming her own children, and then whatever remains is what became life in the universe, you know. So yeah, it's fascinating, and it just makes me want to learn more about this stuff. So if you guys have any more videos or other content creators out there that have done any stuff, you know, more on everything with the Mechanites and the Sarkics and the war that happened between them, and et cetera, I would definitely like to learn more about it. But for now, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I appreciate you hanging out and watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub. As always, links down below in the info section to the Exploring the SCP Foundation channel and to this video. If you would also do me a favor and click the join button and take a look at the YouTube memberships and consider joining at any of the tiers if any of them have any kind of interest to you. I do a lot of these every Monday. I do a series of reactions to various videos live for YouTube members. We, you know, sit and discuss as I'm going along, and they give me some of their input as I'm going along doing it live. Then we have some pre and post discussions after the video. If you want to join in on those, you know, feel free to do so. But also every Friday, I'm currently got a book club going on for Warhammer 40k. I'm currently reading the Horus Rising book. It's the first book. I'm up to chapter 10. We've gone through the first 9 chapters so far, and I've got those up and available to members as well. If you want to go through and take a look at those discussions, etc., etc. But regardless, I appreciate you guys just coming in and hanging out. And if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and a sub. And yeah, I'll see you guys, on the next video. Hope you're having yourself a wonderful day, wonderful night, wonderful afternoon whenever you're watching this. And again, thank you very much. See you guys in the next one.